Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com with another sort of coding exercise or lesson in JavaScript. And this one's just more to talk about how flexible containers are in JavaScript in the sense that, and when I say containers, I mean like objects and arrays and all the flexibility you can do with them. I mean, you can make, imagine this, you can make an array. So we'll see, make an array of functions. So here we have an array. Okay, and the first element in our array, we'll make it an arrow function. Okay. And that arrow function, okay, will basically, actually we'll give it A and B for parameters. We'll just return an object that has the result of a plus b. Okay, has a private name result that's a plus b. That's so we have an array that has inside of it a function that returns an object. Okay, now how would I access that object? You must be thinking, well, okay, I can just do this. And actually, I probably shouldn't call this array. We'll call this func array. Okay, so there I define the array. And I can just do something like this, console.log. Okay, so we need to access the func array. But it's going to be the first item in our func array, which is a function. So since it's a function, we have to call the function, give it some letters, 2 plus 2. But again, the result of the array gives us an object. So we have to access it with the dot notation. Dot result. Okay? So generally in any other programming language, that looks like gibberish. Okay, the call. But there's some interesting possibilities there. But let's just make sure that that actually does what I expect it to do. Node JS containers. Did I write that right? Console.log func array 0 to 2. Oh wait, why did I write 2 plus 2? And that's not right. It's 2 and 2 are my parameters. Save. That's why that didn't work the way I expected it. Okay, reference. Oh, func array is not defined. It wants me to define it. Okay, find const func array. Did I spell it the same way? Func array. Yes. Save. Missing initializer in const declaration. Oh, man. There we go. An equal sign. I do need to kind of assign the value, don't I? There we go. Let's try that again. And there we go. We get the number 4. Because 2 plus 2 is 4. So this, I am calling the function in this array that adds these two numbers and then returns an object with a properly called result that has the result A plus B. Okay. And this allows you to kind of create, especially if you're trying to create tools for other developers, this allows you to create interesting things. So for example, what you could do is you may have different you may have different functions. Maybe have different addition functions. Okay. So in this case, maybe I have the exact same thing. Okay, and then B is A, B, C. Okay, so it's 3 parameters, and it's A plus B plus C. Okay, and then I console log it again. Okay, and then basically this becomes item number 1 because it's the second item in the array. And then we're going to add 2 plus 2 plus 2, and we're still calling that result property because it still works out the same way. So let's see, make sure that works. And there you go, 4, and then 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. That's pretty cool, right down here. So, and let's try something else. What if we just had a function? So let's say here, we'll call it funky stuff, or just func stuff. Okay, and then this, actually, maybe put my const before it starts complaining that I didn't declare stuff. Okay, because today, for all of a sudden, JavaScript starts caring that I put const and let. Okay, so what I could do is we do this function, and then again, we'll just take no parameters, just to show a thing. And what all this function does is return an array with only one item in it, which is an object that says result is 8. Okay, and then that's basically what it does. So let's try this. Console.log. It'll run the function func stuff. Okay, so we run the function, but of course the function returns an array. So we have to put, well, not a dot, but we want to put a 0 because we're gonna access the first element in the array that it returns, and then we're gonna access the object in there and access the property result, and we want to console log that. Save. Okay, and then so let's run that one. Okay, unexpected token. Where did I put the extra parentheses? Okay, on line 9. It's complaining that, oh, it's an error. Oh, silly me. Why have I been really bad about arrow functions today? Okay, save. Okie dokie. Then we run that. And there we go. Okay, returns the 8. So, again, 90% of the time, this is probably, like, having really crazy setups like this may not be the most useful thing in the world, but there are times where that may be really useful. Okay, you may need certain parameters for a function. So, for example, let's say you want to create a group, like, let's say it's a video game, and you want to create a group of adventurers, but you want to make sure that those 4 classes that are created behave in a certain way relative to each other. Okay, so then what happens, is you have a function that'll take in some parameters, do some stuff with the numbers that are passed in before it actually generates an array that has these 4 objects in them that represent your characters. Okay, and the person could assign the result to an array. But they could also just, access it this way. They'd be like, okay, I want to access the, this information from hero number in position 0, and I want to access their strength variable. You can kind of think of interesting ways, or it depends on the situation. Again, you might need to take certain information in, do some stuff before you go put it. Or what may happen is that you may have a function or a class or a group of functions that are closely related, and you want to put them all in one object so people can access them. I mean, that's essentially what people do with static classes or static class functions, or function class methods. But normally people would do a singleton, which what a singleton is you create generally a class with a bunch of static methods, and a static method means that you call the method from the class, not an instance of the class. But there's no necessarily need to create a whole new class with static methods here. You can just create an object. We can just call this my function object. Okay, here's my function object. And then, inside of my function object, I have all these functions. Okay, so we'll call this my math object. Okay, and then this is going to equal an object. And the first one we have is this add one. Okay, and then instead of returning we'll let it return an object. So it's an object with a function that returns an object. Why not? A plus b. And it wouldn't be add there, it'd be colons. Okay. Let's do another one. Say sub. And do the same thing, except we're going to subtract the numbers. Okay, and maybe it's because I really just want them to be in that particular structure. I want them to be in an object with a property result, because maybe there's some other function I'm going to feed them into that's going to look for that property result. So I need to have it formatted in that particular way. Okay, again, these kind of things usually come up when you're creating libraries. I wouldn't say, you know, when you're thinking of how a lot of complex things are going to end up relating to each other after in a big way, but it can be really, it's nice to have this flexibility. You don't often have it in a lot of other languages to be able to kind of play with collections in this way. But let's see here. Let's say console.log, and then we'll take my math. So my math is the object, and we want to call the add function in it. Okay, I'm going to pass in 2 parameters, add 2 and 2. Okay, and then we want to access that property, which is result from that. Okay. So now if I hit, see at the end I have 2 plus 2 equals 4. Now if I didn't bring the result, what if I just stopped here? Then it's what's going to do is going to print out the object. Now let's take a look at the difference. Oh, let me save it first. See, in there at the end, it prints out the object instead. So there's different reasons that, I mean, that could also be useful for, like, let's say, you know, you're delivering JSON, so you need something to kind of, you're going to put your, you know, maybe what you do is set up an object that has like what you do depending based on the different type of request that you get. So you can kind of build an API in an object, and then it takes a look at your headers to see what the kind of request it is and matches it up with the property. You know, actually, you know, we can imagine that. So like, for example, you know, let's pretend like, I'm not gonna actually run this one because there's no header here, but we could sit there and say, let's say there's a request object that would have my method in there. I might be looking for the method. This is something you might actually do in like Next.js. Okay, so it'll be like method. So I'm looking for my method, and it's going to equal request. So it's going to look for like whether it's a get or a put or a push. And then what I can do is I can have my request handler object. Okay, which will be an object that has, you know, different functions depending on what kind of request comes in. And these will just be empty functions right now just to get the point across. Okay, so get, put, post, etc. And then basically what happens is I then have a switch that tests my method. Okay. And then basically we'll say, hey, case get. Actually, I don't need that there. Switch method case get would just be like request handler dot get. And you know, basically you just do that and you just create a whole switch like that. And basically what you do is that this may be happening behind the scenes, and then in your library basically you're just saying, hey, to create your API, all you need to do is define the function inside each of these items. Okay, so which would be one way you can design a library. So basically what would happen is that you would have a class that has this request handler object in it. You know, actually, I got my brain's thinking. I kind of want to go create a framework, a JavaScript framework for APIs. You know, because in other ones, usually you have a function and then you just call that function and pass in a callback. But you could essentially define, you know, have an object with all your verbs, and then you just assign the functions to your verbs, and then everything else just kind of gets processed automatically, in a sense. There's all sorts of different ways you could use this. This is just, again, understanding the flexibility and appreciating the flexibility of JavaScript. So hopefully you enjoyed this and found some interesting stuff in it. And again, this is what's called object destructuring over here. So I talked about it in a previous video and I didn't know what it was called, but it's called object destructuring. What you're doing is you're taking stuff out of an object and you're using this so that way you find that sort of identically named property and getting its value. So I'll leave it at that. I'll see you guys later on. Have a great day. Enjoy. This is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com.